Well, hello and welcome. It's the June Comet Watch. So without further ado, let's get on with the shipping forecast, I guess. So thanks to Nick James and Jonathan Shanklin, as always, for the visual observations page. So starting with latest discoveries, May the 5th, Warchop Boomplod reports a Kreutzgruppe comet in real-time C2 images.
And on May the 6th, the discovery of 2021 E3 ZTF reported.
On May the 6th, the discovery of 2021 G1 Leonard reported.
On the May 7th, Simon Li Wu reports a Kreutzgruppe comet in real-time C3 images.
And on the 8th of May, Tregev Presgard reports a Kreutzgruppe comet in delayed C2 images.
May the 10th, and Warshop Bloomplod reports a Kreutzgruppe comet in real-time C2 images.
May the 11th, Warchop Boomplod reports a Kreutzgruppe comet in real-time C2 images.
And on May the 11th, Warchop Bloomplod reports a Maya Group comet in real-time C2 images.
Neil. I think we've lost Neil. So
I've just come back.
Oh.
I'm back. I don't know where you got to. Sorry.
I think it's May the 12th, Neil.
May 12th next.
May the 12th. Okay, so I'll go the 13th, yeah?
No, you've got to do May 12th first.
Oh, May 12th. Okay, well, that's Masanori Uchina reports a Kreutzgruppe comet in real-time C2 images.
May the 13th, Warchop Boomplod reports a Kreutzgruppe comet in real-time C2 images.
And on May the 14th, Mikhail Beziada reports a comet in real-time C2 images.
May 15th, Warshop Bloomplod reports a Kreutzgruppe comet in real-time C2 images.
May the 16th, Robert Picard reports a Maya Group comet in real-time C2 images.
And on May the 16th, Peter Barrett reports a non-group comet in archival C2 images.
22nd of May, and Warshop Bloomplod reports a Kreutzgruppe comet in real-time C3 images.
22nd of May, also Teregev Pestegard reports a non-group comet in real-time C2 images.
And on the 27th of May, discovery of 2021 K1 Atlas is reported.
May the 29th, and commentary activity reported in 2020 PVG Penstars.
May the 29th, Robert Picard reports a Kreutzgruppe comet in real-time C2 images.
And on May the 31st, we have the recovery of 2009 U4, that's periodic McNaught, as 2020 H10 reported.
And on May the 31st, Warshop Bloomplod reports a Kreutzgruppe comet in real-time C2 images.
On June the 2nd, discovery of 2021 J1 Muri Atterard reported.
And on the 2nd of June again, we have the discovery of 2021 J2 Pan-stars reported.
The 3rd of June again, discovery of 2021 J3 Periodic Atlas reported.
Again on June the 3rd, Raphael Byros reports a Kreutzgruppe comet in real-time C2 images.
And on the 3rd of June, Warchop Bloomplod reports a Kreutzgruppe comet in delayed C2 images.
Again on the 3rd of June, Treve Prescott reports a Kreutzgruppe comet in archival C2 images.
June the 4th, Robert Picard reports a Kreutzgruppe comet in real-time C2 images.
And on June the 4th again, Masanori Uchina reports 2 Kreutzgruppe comets in delayed C2 images.
And that was the update on.
Okay, so moving on to current comet magnitudes and observable region. So we're going to kick off with 2020 T2 Palomar, magnitude 10.5. It's bright. It's observable 55 degrees north to 45 degrees south. It's an all-night object. The last visual observation was May 2021.
Then we have 10P Temple, currently mag 10.5. That's fading, but it's observable from 0 degrees north to 55 south. That is best viewed in the morning, and the last visual observation was April 2021.
And next is 2020 R4 Atlas, magnitude 11.5 and now fading, 55 degrees north to 35 degrees south, best viewed in the evening, last reported in May 21.
7P Ponds Winnicky. I do apologise if I got that wrong. 12th magnitude bright, 55 degrees north to 55 degrees south. It's a morning object. Last visually observed May 2021.
And we have the 2019 L3 Atlas, currently 12.5. That is brightening, but is at poor elongation currently. And the last visual observation of that was April 2021.
Oh, the good one, 29P, Schwarzman-Bachmann, magnitude 13, question mark, of course, because it varies. It's currently in conjunction, was last seen or visually observed in January.
2019 N1 Atlas, 13th magnitude, fading, 25 degrees south to 90 degrees south. It's early evening, last visually observed 2021 February.
Then we have 15P Finlay, that is currently mag 3.5. That's brightening and is visible 20 degrees north to 80 south. That is a morning object, no observations currently reported.
Next is 2019 T4 Atlas, magnitude 13.5 and now brightening, 25 degrees north to 90 degrees south, best viewed in the evening and yet to be observed.
And 2021 D1 Swan, 13.5, it's fading, poor elongation, last visually observed April 2021.
Then we have 246P Neat, that is mag 14 question mark. It is steady, observable 30 degrees north to 85 south. That is a morning object, last visual observation May 2020.
And finally, the hope for the future, 2017 K2 Pan-STARRS, magnitude 14 and brightening, 55 degrees north to 15 degrees south, an all-night object and was last visually observed in September 2020.
Of course, as always, details are usually updated at the beginning of each month. Some may be updated more frequently for brighter comets. The last partial updates was on May 18th. The magnitude is a rough value for the mean magnitude reported. Some observers obviously see the comet brighter than this, whilst others will see it fainter. The observational region is an approximate indication of the latitude at which the comet may be seen. Obviously, under good conditions, the comets may be visible outside this range, and the period when visible is for the UK. Obviously, it goes to say if the comet is visible from the UK, otherwise 40 degrees south or the equator is appropriate. The last visual observation is as received by the BAA Comet Section. Details are often updated on the basis of observations published elsewhere. It goes without saying, unfortunately, beginners will find that comets fainter than about 7 magnitude difficult to locate. There are finder charts available on positions on the BAA website, published by the Comet Section. You can also go to Seiichi Yoshida's page. He will also provide RA and DEC and a finder chart. And the Sky Live will also provide you with a very good fix on the location and the potential magnitude. As always, we're not going to get terribly excited if something is promising to be naked eye visibility or better, because frankly, myself, Neil and Mary, we know better. We're not going to buy into the hype of the uninformed media and really spoil it for everybody else. Comets are like cats, as David Levy says. They have tails and they do them as they wish. And to be brutally honest, comets frequently do not come to the expectations we have. It's an unfortunate thing. Sometimes some apparitions, they're brilliant. Sometimes they're poor. It is really down to the luck of the draw, and it really depends on just how much outgassing has happened or is able to happen. And of course, some degree that does depend on solar weather. So as I say, the best thing you can do is to hope for a good apparition of the comet. And if you don't get it, unfortunately, we just deal with it and hope for a better one next time, which is fairly decent for the Jupiter family ones, because they are fairly regular. Sometimes they're good, sometimes they're poor. I'll end my Patrick
We
Moore
all
spiel now.
eternally live in hope.
Absolutely. Okay, now, at the moment it is just myself, Mary and Neil, so we'll go and have a chat about two of these comets that are in the sky, both of which have actually been imaged from down under. I always live in hope that Neil will start singing that song.
No. Mary's the musician in the group, so maybe a bass line or something like that. But yeah, no, I'm retired.
Retired.
And interestingly, both of these comets are Jupiter family comets, really. We're talking about 7P Pons Winnock and 15P Finley, both Jupiter family comets. They have, well, 7P has a 6-year orbit, and this coincidentally so does 15P Finley. Well, how's that for you? Now let's start with, we might as well start with 15P. Let's get Finley out of the way. I have tried to image it through Chile, and unfortunately the weather hasn't been optimal. And as Patrick Moore has demonstrated many times on the sky at night, whenever you take a camera out to do a live location with a telescope, it doesn't happen.
No.
So I suppose because I've been hearing so much about it in Comet Watch and in Swan Hill Astronomers Group, I decided to image it. And of course, every night I've put in the imaging runs. Sorry, your imaging run did not go, bad weather. Now, the interesting thing is, it was discovered by William Henry Finley at the Royal Observatory, Cape of Good Hope, South Africa, back in 1886 on the 26th of September. My gosh, isn't that an interesting date? Well, September date is anyway.
Your birthday?
How did you know, Neil? But
I thought so. And the year too, but don't tell anybody.
Well, in that case, I've either got a picture of Dorian Gray's, a picture like Dorian Gray's, or I'm a Time Lord and I'm slumming it on the Earth. But anyway, so the next perihelion passage is July the 13th of this year. It's supposed to have a solar elongation of 54 degrees at an approximate magnitude of 10. Now, that's good. That's good for a comet, particularly one of this age.
But we've got to talk about surface brightness. So although it will be magnitude 10, it's going to have it because it's a Jupiter family comet and been around for so many times. The surface brightness will be lower, so it will probably be more like 12 to a visual observer.
Yeah.
This is where the amateurs have to be careful. 10, you see, they may think, oh, 10, I can get that in my telescope, and then they'll be disappointed because the surface brightness is so low that they will not see a 10th magnitude comet. It will be more like a 12.
Now, I noticed that it has a similarity orbit-wise with Francesco Di Vicchio's lost periodic comet of 1844.
Yes.
54P/Di Vicchio Swift Neat. Oh, this is even better. I actually know people at the Dudley Observatory in Schenectady. Lewis Boss at the Dudley Observatory Schenectady in the US noted the large discrepancies. And after further observations, it was concluded that Di Viccio's comet could not be the same as Finley's. Now, back in 1906 apparition, the comet brightened to about magnitude 6. Then it had a close pass with Jupiter back in 1910, which increased the orbital period. So by 1999, the path was off predictions, and a new comet discovered by Seiichi at the Kyoto Observatory in Japan back on the 25th of October 1919 was actually discovered to be Finley's. It's declined in magnitude after 1926, and then it was recovered again in 1953, and it's been observed on every return since.
Yeah. 2015, I believe, didn't it have it has a tendency to outburst, and I think it did an outbursting near when it's near to Mars in the sky,
Yeah.
and it became suddenly very visible. I do remember, I think I observed it at the time.
Yeah. In fact, Bob King did a paper about Comet Finley in bright outbursts and visible in small telescopes for Universe Today. I believe that was in 2014, December the 18th.
Oh, right. Yep.
Now, 2060 is going to be a very close apparition for this comet. It currently has an Earth moid of about 0.009 AU. So it's going to come to perihelion 7 times more, and then between October the 26th and 28th of 2060, it will be roughly 0.04 AU, which is 3.7 million miles from the Earth. Now, there is an uncertainty region of about plus or minus 2.5 million kilometers on this. So kilometers, that's about 6.0 million kilometers, 3.7 million miles. But it will be one of the closest comet approaches to the Earth for this particular comet.
Interesting. I'll stick it in my Google Calendar.
I think if we all survive that long, it'll definitely be one for the books. I want to survive for the next apparition of Halley's Comet. It's not going to be a brilliant one, but I want to say I've done it twice.
I want to say I've done it once. It would be amazing.
See, this is the beauty of this, because this is the Jupiter family comets, as you mentioned, and this is what they do. They're because they are so often perturbed by Jupiter on these orbits they go through. Their aphelion points are so close to Jupiter's orbit that if Jupiter's in the right place at the right time, it can nudge them to extend their periods or bring them. As we know, we had Comet Vertinen recently, another Jupiter family comet passed close to Earth. Lexell's comet, which passed close to Earth, was one as well, and there's a Soho one as well, which turned out to be a Jupiter family comet. All these comets tend to be the ones that Jupiter throws at, and they can make these passes.
Having said that, it is definitely one. If you have access to telescopes in the southern hemisphere, do go and image it. Yes, it has a relative orbital period of 6 years, but for some reason, this is a comet that seems to vanish every now and again. So we don't quite understand why it's happened, but we do know that let me get back to this, between 1926 and 1953, it had not been observed in any of its returns. We knew the orbit roughly, but no one could find it. But it's from 1953 onwards, it has been observed on every return so far. So it is kind of interesting, just looking at the figures for perihelion. For epoch 1866, 1 astronomical unit, 1906, 0.96, 1919, again back to 1 astronomical unit, 1981, 1.1 AUs, 2008, 0.97, and now 2021, 0.99.
That's the Jupiter effect.
Yeah, basically. I know that they had a really cruddy sci-fi show called The Jupiter Effect, but this is the real Jupiter effect.
It is.
It's kind of interesting, and it does make life a little bit interesting for people like myself, who likes and Mary, who love imaging them, and Neil, who likes to visually observe.
Yes, and sketch and so on. Yeah.
I'm just looking at the path that it's going to take over the next month or so, and it's going to pass between Ceres and Uranus, so that'd be a nice conjunction. But I know that comets are difficult to see when the moon's nearby, but it's going to be extremely close to the waning crescent moon in the early hours of the 5th of July, and it's so close that it may well occult it from some locations, which would be very interesting. I don't think I've ever seen a cometary occultation before, but it's incredibly close from here, so you know, other places in the UK may well get that.
That's the thing also, isn't it? All our new listeners all these Jupiter family comets are normally found within the, the ecliptic of the, the zodiac constellations. They very seldomly wander into other constellations because of the way that they are inclined, aren't they, to the ecliptic in the solar system, because again of Jupiter's effects.
There almost certainly must have been lunar occultations of comets before from the Jupiter family, but I've just not seen any pictures of them. So,
well, the interesting thing is, on December the 16th, 2014, it went from magnitude 11 to magnitude 9. So that made it possible to be seen in regular binoculars with a 50mm objective lens.
Yeah, that's when I saw it. Yeah.
On the 23rd of December of the same year, 15P and Mars were only about 1/6 of a degree apart in the sky after sunset.
Yeah, that's it.
But by the 23rd of December, it had dimmed considerably since the outburst. And then in January 2015, the comet went back into outburst and went back up to magnitude 8. So, and for anybody listening, magnitudes, when we're talking about magnitude 8, that's dim. Anything with a magnitude that's a minus, that's bright. So magnitude 1 or 0 is pretty much naked eye. Once it goes into the negative of magnitudes, it's definitely going to be very, very obvious to the naked eye in the sky, particularly if the moon hasn't risen or it's just set.
Using the plough is a good, most people recognize the plough, but those stars are round about mag 1, so that's a kind of good way of getting your bearings with the magnitude scale. And if you ever see Venus, that's kind of around mag -4 sort of ballpark. So the magnitude scale's a strange one, but for people that are new to the magnitude scale, each order of magnitude is 2.5 times brighter than the previous one, or the dimmer than the one above it, and that means that it's logarithmic, and therefore 3 orders of magnitude difference is quite a substantial difference in brightness, because it doesn't look like there's going to be a lot of difference when you just see it going from 1 to 14, but there really is a big difference between those.
Definitely.
And if anybody's,
the sun is -27, I believe.
And if anybody's wondering why you're not seeing us this month, is that in the UK it is over 23 degrees Celsius. It is a very hot spring. It's not even summer yet. So yes, it's kind of a little bit warm, and we are taking adequate precautions not to overheat. So you don't want to see.
Basically, we're all naked.
Oh, Neil, you had to go and say that, didn't you?
It was 28 degrees here today, so vests are out.
Yeah, we're all
that's
naked.
For sure.
We're all sitting on sun lounges and drinking martinis.
Oh, daiquiris are better in the heat. Alcohol just dries you out.
Well, yeah, but I'm drinking. No, I'm joking. Joke.
Comets,
but I think they go through a lot of thermal stress, because I think if we go back to our show when we had Dr. David Jewett on, and he was talking about K2, that comet was taken 3 million years to come in again, which means it's got no heat trapped in its nucleus from the last time it came round. But of course, an object like Finley or Pons Finneck, which we'll move on to in a minute, they probably hold some sort of heat inside them, residual heat inside them from their perihelion passes, and it causes them sometimes to fracture the nucleus. These comets do tend to outburst. I
would have thought, being that close to Jupiter as some of them gets, the Jupiter itself heats up the comet nucleus.
Yeah, tidal friction and all this sort of thing.
As I say, we know that even though that we know one of Jupiter's moons has ice and a liquid ocean believed to be underneath it, the only reason that's able to happen is due to the gravitational effects of Jupiter. Yeah.
And Io is the complete opposite. It's a volcanic, because it's so close to Jupiter. It's just churning it all up inside and turning it into a world of fire. It's just a complete opposite. So
it was sad to find out that after the announcement that NASA are sending 2 missions to Venus, they've shelved the Io visiting plans, so we're not going to get to see Io or Triton probably for a long time, which is a bit of a shame.
No.
But on the subject of Jupiter, have you guys seen they finally released the first images of Ganymede when Juno did a flyby last night?
No.
They are phenomenal.
Mm.
There's a few of the raw images on the Juno Cam website that you can just download and process yourself, and I've seen a few people sharing a couple, and it's just stunning, as you'd expect it was going to be. Juno's been amazing.
Yeah.
I think the interesting thing is it also allows images to hone their processing skills, because a lot of the images we're seeing aren't done by NASA. They're actually processed by amateur astronomers and uploaded and posted by NASA themselves, because one of the things they did with Juno was to make the raw data, or data, take your pick, available straight away, so you can load it into your favorite imaging processing, whether it's Nina in my case, or PixInsight, or whatever. You can actually then process the image yourself. Then you can send it into NASA, and NASA will then post it on their website. And I think in some respects that saved them an awful lot of processing money, so to speak, when it comes to this mission. And it's also generated an awful lot more interest, I think, in the amateur astronomy community, because we are actually the people responsible for the images, the non-science data images which are being posted.
It's the same with Perseverance, isn't it? And the Ingenuity stuff, that's all just open for people to download and play with. It's just a joy to play with. Didn't they make all the the Hubble legacy data? That's all available as well for people to process. I still keep meaning to go and get some of that because I haven't tried it yet.
I think the thing is, what's happening is we're seeing a greater pro-amateur migration, so to speak. The pro-am collaborations have proved, particularly in missions like Rosetta and from then onwards, showed that, that the amateur astronomy community had the technical skills to actually do real science. And it's something now that seems to be almost a regular occurrence. I'm always seeing stuff popping up on social media about the latest pro-am professional astronomers and amateur astronomers getting together, whether they're looking at variable stars, or if it's processing the actual data from Jupiter, Mars, or whatever. It seems to me an awful lot more is now being done by amateur astronomers, because we've demonstrated that we have the capability of being as good as somebody who's been to university, got a degree, then got their masters, and then got everything else. We can. And the other thing is, we have the telescope time. Everybody thinks, great, I'm going to go to university, I'm going to get a degree in astronomy, and I'm going to get a job with a telescope. No, most professional astronomers work on data that they have requested, or go data mining these days. Look at the Venus phosphine emissions. They went back into the old Pioneer records for Venus. Oh, yeah, look what we missed. Phosphine. It was there. Which has been really great for the team at the University of Cardiff and everything, because it's vindication. Pioneer saw it, but nobody was interested. So yes, it's not noise or miscalibration. It does actually exist there. It's finding out what's causing it, which has caused NASA to go back to send 2 probes back to Venus.
Yeah, it's an exciting time for sure.
But if you want to get involved in the pro-am collaborations, what you need to do, you need to have a good telescope, a CCD or a DSLR, have access to image processing programs like PixInsight, Nina. I believe you can use Photoshop with the FITS Liberator plugin to do it as well. I've tried it. I really didn't get on with it, but I love Nina. It's so simple, and you have like PixInsight does. There are video tutorials on YouTube to take you through how to process your image, to get how to deal with your flats, your darks, your lights, and the actual FITS files from your telescope. Or if you've gone to somewhere like iTelescope and you're paying for time on their system, and particularly now with Comets, all the Comet imaging done through iTelescope is FITS files. There is no JPEG generated for you. You have to process it. So
it is good practice, as you said earlier. It's it'll help you with your own imaging.
Exactly. And of course, it's all peer reviewed, and your peers now become the professional astronomers are your peers, and they love having us around, because if there's a project, then they need to get as much imaging done as possible. They go on Facebook, they go into the groups like Comet Watch, like what's our other group, Neil, the Solar System group? Go on, plug it.
The Solar and Lunar group.
Yeah, because they know that the people in their pub posting their own images have the ability to work to the standards and to do what they want. 9 times out of 10, when you're imaging comets for scientific purposes, you're not doing a beauty shot. You're doing a luminance only image, because that is so much easier. And I have been guilty of this. Yes. I did some work on the SW1 team, and I thought I'd take color images. Yeah. And actually what they need is luminance, is black and white, because black and white images can be subjected to photometry much easier. And to be able to detect the signs of an outburst in luminance or black and white is so much easier. And I know that Dr. Richard Miles would be probably very happy with pushing this point, because they can extract much more from that than they can from the beauty image. So yes, take your beauty image, by all means, post it in the groups. But if you want to do science, submit your luminance image, and they need every piece of information about your telescope, your camera, and how you're processing, what you're processing with, and they need timings for your flats, your darks, your lights, and the actual FITS image. Did that cover about everything there, do you think?
I think so. And people will help as well. If your stuff isn't in the right format, the BAA will help you. So, don't be scared of submitting stuff.
Oh, and submit your images to the BAA, to the Association of Lunar and Planetary Observers, to the Astronomical League, because they are all building a huge database of images, which the science community can go to. And at the end of the day, if they're using your image in their paper, you've got your name on the paper. Yep. At the end of the day, they will credit you because they're using your image for their paper. So, hey, it's immortality, guys, boys and girls, rather. I got, when I started doing Galaxy Zoo, I got told you can't have a nickname. We need your real name. And it took me a long time to twig why, because they can't put one of the nicknames I used to have, I still have, on a science paper.
No.
But they can put your full name, your first name, last name, on the science paper as a co-author. And how cool is that?
So all my science publications were with my maiden name, so nobody knows that I'm on them now. Most people don't know me by my original surname. So.
Oh, a few of us still, Mary.
Oh no, I'm not Spicer. I was Jackson originally.
Oh, I think guitars.
Yeah, I was I was married twice, so yeah, I keep changing my name. But I do actually have a Jackson bass, and I bought it primarily because my name used to be Jackson.
There you go.
But yeah, it is really good when you get that recognition on a paper, and you know, I think we've said this many times, there just really aren't that many hobbies where you have opportunities like this to collab with the professionals. So fortunate.
It is one of those things. I'm still part of Galaxy Zoo. I'm not active. A couple of my friends on Galaxy Zoo are on my case to be active. You know who you are. But I'm busy. I've got a new telescope. I'm learning it. I've got to collimate it. Because it's not motor driven, it's not got go-to. I am kind of limited. It'd have to be very bright comets. But I can happily poodle along imaging various parts of the moon. I love lunar reels, lunar mountain chains, stuff like that, and domes. So yeah, it keeps me busy, it keeps me happy. But I know I can go on a remote telescope if someone turns around to me and says, "Hey, we need so many luminance images of this comet." Yeah, great. I know exactly what I'm going to do. I'll set it all up and get everything done and just send it in.
You'll have to get onto 7p as soon as you can, Nick.
That is the plan, but every time I keep going for 15p and 7p, I keep getting bad weather.
Yeah, a bit like what's forecast for the partial eclipse on Thursday. Like glorious sun all week, and Thursday 100% cloud cover all day.
Of course
it is.
It wouldn't be anything but, wouldn't it? Terribly un-British if it wasn't.
Indeed.
Okay, so let's move on to our second comet of the night. 7p Pons. What was it? Pons Winnicky or Winnicky?
I say Vinnick.
Vinnick.
Yeah.
Vinnick.
Okay.
Yeah.
Pons Vinnick. Okay, fair enough. It's a Jupiter family comets. Again, it has a 6-year orbit. Interestingly, early calculations for the 1921 apparition said that the comet might collide with the Earth in June, but observations on April the 10th ruled out an impact. It did make a very close approach to the Earth back in June 1927. See, I have to really read this information because it gets the 21st century. I'm not expecting a 20 in front of everything, not 19 or anything else.
That's it. Yeah.
But the outward migration of perihelions, it's created some impressive meteor showers in 1916, 1921, and 1927. It's already passed perihelion this year. It was on the 27th of May, and it would have had a solar elongation of about 107 degrees at an apparent magnitude of 11. And on the 12th of June of this year, it'll be passing about 0.44 AU, which is 66 million kilometers from the Earth. Last perihelion was January 30th, 2015, and then it only had an solar elongation of about 24 degrees. Okay, so it was originally discovered by Jean-Louis Pons in Marseille on the 12th of June, 1819, and then later rediscovered by Friedrich August Theodor Winnick in Bonn on March 9th, 1858. And of course, it's the cause of the June Boutets meteor shower. So in reality, it's about 6.37 years orbital period. Perihelion tends to be 1.3 AU, and aphelion of 5.6, well past the orbit of Jupiter. 1927 was its closest. 16 lunar diameters, that's 0.04 AU. And in 1939, 0.1 AU. So
Yes.
I think people were a wee bit too busy to observe that.
But it's got a very, I think it's got a very low absolute magnitude, hasn't it? Which means, although people are here in 1927, it came so close to Earth, an absolute magnitude is, say, I think it's 12 or 16, isn't it, or something like that?
Yeah.
Not sure. But it basically means that it's very, very dim. Even when it does pass close, it is very dim.
Well, yeah. If we go back to the BAA Comet page, it's 12, magnitude 12.
Yeah.
That's considered a bright comet. So once it goes, 13.5, 14 can be bright. Of course, once you start getting into single figures, it's definitely bright. And if you go negative, it's, oh my gosh,
Blinding.
it's bright. Blinding, yes.
Yes. So, ISON never was.
Yes, ice on
I
the
did
comet,
get one
but never
picture
was.
of ISON. I did get one photograph before it died.
Yeah.
Oh,
I remember that one.
just looking at the orbit path again, just to see if there's any interesting conjunctions, and it looks like on the 5th of June, this comet is going to pass very close to the Helix Nebula. That's a planetary that's mag 6.5, so that would be an awesome photo opportunity.
Yep.
That's gone though, hasn't it? Do you say 5th of June?
15th.
Oh, 15th. Sorry.
Yeah.
Oh, well, especially as it's in outburst and it's behaving very strangely at the moment. So if it carries on, there's loads of hoods and there's jet protruding, and it's going crazy up there. It's
Now there's an
Don't
interesting
think we're
image.
gonna get it from here.
Well, remote telescope job, isn't it?
Yeah.
I was going to say there's a contemporary illustration of Pons Vinit from 1921, and it rather resembles a jellyfish.
Yes. I've seen that picture.
Yes, and it shows the Earth and the Moon through the tail. So obviously the illustrator's doing it from a point of view away from the Earth, showing the Earth and Moon to scale. But it is rather. I will put a link to that picture into the notes.
It's rather spectacular.
Yes, it is.
A bit of artistic license, of course, but yes, it's.
Obviously, yes, but we just don't know, because 1921, astro imaging was kind of very crude still, I suppose.
Yeah.
And unless somebody had a real scientific interest, I doubt it would have been imaged. It would have required probably one of the professional scopes.
I've been researching it for the project we're doing, and if you look at the book that Gary did, Cometography, and read up on the 1927 apparition, all you'll see is it was photographed about 7 times. This is when the close approach was. There was only about seven known images taken, all at professional observatories, and those images are very hard to track down even today. So yeah, and I've never seen a sketch done by anybody. See, this is why we're lucky. We talked about the BAA a moment ago, who and these other people who take in our work that we do today, because future generations can see these comets and what they look like. Whereas, back in 1927, nobody was collecting these sketches or, what people saw of other comets or anything. And we just sit here today and we just don't know what it looked like. So
it does very much resemble a jellyfish. I've just found that illustration.
Yeah.
It's a jellyfish taking a dive through space. I'm going off a bit of a tangent. Do you remember Encounter at Farpoint, the first Next Generation story?
No.
Yeah, vaguely remember that one.
The creature that was being used to provide power and everything was kind of like a cosmic jellyfish. When it actually escaped the planet, it was very jellyfishish, if you understand what I mean.
Jellyfishish.
Yeah, jellyfishish.
That's definitely a word.
It is now. Just going to encourage it. The use of it a bit jellyfishy.
But I do love looking at historic sketches of comets. Maria Clara Imart, she was an amazing sketcher from way back in history, and she was basically sketching on blue boards, and she did lots of cometry formations, like looking at the different morphologies and stuff like that, and the sketches are just gorgeous. And then of course there's the famous Chinese silk paintings with all the natural disasters depicted underneath it they thought the comet was responsible for.
And of course there's Halley's Comet on the BAA tapestry.
Yeah. No, it's there's a lot of really awesome illustrations throughout history of comets.
I think one of my favorites has to be the Great Comet. I think it was probably an illustration used for one of the newspapers at the time. Neil knows what I'm talking about.
Is that the one with all the people stood outside and the comet filling the entire sky?
Yes, there's all these tendrils that show the tail as many tailed, I think it was. But Neil's the historian, so I'm sure he'll correct me if I'm wrong.
Sorry, I cut out there. Are you talking about which one? The Shows Comet?
The Great Comet.
Sorry, I cut out. So I'm literally coming into this blind. The shows had 6 tails in 1744. 1577 was a great one.
I think it was the one probably turned in the last century. That was the Great Comet,
the Daylight Comet of 1910.
Yes, that's the one.
The one that the South African diamond, or was it diamond miners? They finished a shift and came up, and then boom, there was a comet in the sky. Yeah.
Wow.
The Great Daylight Comet, 1910. Just about 3 months before Halley, or Hawley, we should say. Or Haley. No, not Haley. Don't say Haley.
Yeah,
Halley.
Neil.
Dr. David Jewett says it's Halley, so we'll stick with Halley. Yes. Yeah, that's the one. Yeah, that was an Oort cloud comet, which was on several million-year orbit, and I think it's been reduced to about 60,000-70,000 years. So can't wait for that one to come back.
Well, this is all pile into my blue box, and we'll pop forward and have a look at it, shall we? Or even pop back, even better. There you go, Neil. We'll bring your camera, mate. We'll pop back.
Yep.
And we'll take a few pictures of the Great Daylight Comets and get the reactions. Sorry, folks, we have to have this little bit of fun, you know.
But of course, I mean, talking about comet images, I think the first comet image, well, okay, the first proper comet image, because there's actually 2, but I'll concentrate on the other one. I think it was the 1882 comet, the famous picture taken from, I think it was South Africa, and they were actually, and they suddenly realised that they could take pictures of stars.
Well, it was a Durant type, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Because there was also a lunar one that was taken in the same method.
Yes.
Through people as well.
And I think there's because the other one, when I paused myself, I think if you go online, you can hunt down an image of the very first definitive comet image, I think was of Donati's comet in 1858. And I think it's a picture taken over Paris or London. I'm not really sure which one, but they claim that's the first ever comet picture.
Well, it survived, most certainly.
Yeah, that's supposed to have been the most beautiful comet ever seen, according to witnesses from that time. So Abraham Lincoln spent some time looking at it too before he's had a big meeting or something. I know he observed it quite a bit. Yeah.
Well, anybody who's interested, the comet nucleus for 7P is estimated at about 5.2 kilometers in diameter.
A lot of these Jupiter family comets do have nucleuses, or nuclei, I should say, sorry, that are around about that size, which is very interesting. A lot of the Oort cloud comets tend to be any number you want. I mean, you know, I think it's 5 kilometers for Neowise recently, but the 2014 L4 was just like 500 meters. And, you know, it seems strange that they all seem to be about the same size. And of course, because all these comets, I think, originate from the Kuiper belt, don't they? And they migrate inwards. So they come from one distinct area of the solar system and they're brought in and trapped by Jupiter.
Well,
Spend aeons with them round and round.
as I say, Jupiter has one of two functions. It's either a cosmic hoover, and it actually captures comets, or it's the cosmic destroyer, and it hurtles comets into us. Obviously, when the Earth was forming, that was brilliant. Not so much these days. Tunguska, we believe, was believed now even more so to be an airburst comet. And Chelyabinsk certainly was an airburster, and that showed you how destructive it wasn't. A comet, as far as I can say, nothing to say that it was a comet. It was probably some asteroidal debris, but it was the way the whole flight path of it was the fact that it was not spotted. It was certainly not expected, and it really taught a lot of people an awfully important lesson. Just because you're not looking there doesn't mean there's something there with our planet's name on it. This time we got that time, we got lucky.
Yeah, the ironic thing about that day was, I don't know if either of you guys can remember its exact name or anything, but I believe the world was actually looking for a close pass of another asteroid.
Oh, I've got a friend Apophis.
Was that day? That was literally due that day?
I think it was Apophis.
Ah, right, okay. And then all of a sudden, this thing came from nowhere out of the sun, and then boom, shakalaka.
Yeah.
Woke everybody up in Russia, you know.
And smashed all the windows in Russia.
Yeah.
Well, it certainly focused a few minds, didn't it?
Yeah.
It did.
But
and I'm surprised that Richard Kowalski didn't discover it, because he likes to get things that hit the Earth.
Yes, and when he discovers them when they land, he gets a piece of it too. Lucky bugger.
I know. I always worry. The first thing I do in the morning is check my Facebook, and if Richard Kowalski's on there and he's happy, I know that it's going to be a bad day for somewhere. Somewhere it's going to have a big.
Well, it's going to be very interesting when we get all of these like future huge telescopes online, because there are going to be a lot more of them. a lot more.
And of course, NASA now is seriously talking about putting both an optical and a radio observatory on the far side of the moon. Something astronomers, professional astronomers, certainly have wanted for a very long time. Both spectrums are getting very, very noisy. And of course, we have huge constellations of internet providing low Earth orbit satellites, which are causing an awful lot of mayhem for professional images, never mind the amateur images.
It's going to get worse and worse. I think there was a talk that we were at recently was saying, like, people say, oh, well, just exclude those frames, or software can get rid of that. But the way that professional cameras on these telescopes work, it's not a digital SLR. They've got all the different buckets, and when the telescope is supposed to be seeing something at plus 25 magnitude, something passing through at mag 4 is going to flood almost all of the pixels. And they've one of the scientists I saw from one of the big telescopes, the Vera Rubin telescope, I think it was, they've calculated that just with Starlink alone, they're going to lose a third of their imaging time, because you can't recover that data. Once it's lost, it's lost. So for when you're doing wide field photography or naked eye stuff, mag plus 4 or 5 is not much of a problem. The software can handle it, but these big telescopes, that is going to be a massive problem. And actually the ones that are not as low are going to be worse, because at least with Starlink, they're only visible near twilight times, whereas the higher orbit ones are visible constantly throughout the whole sky as well. So it's a disaster. It's going to be awful. Something needs to be done, because we're going to lose the sky. I'm currently doing a challenge to create an astronomy sketch or piece of art every day for 2 months, and I have been genuinely astonished at the quantity of satellites I've seen while I've been doing any eyepiece sketches at the binoculars. We're talking like in the space of drawing just the coat hanger, I must have seen 25 satellites going through my field of view. I have never seen it like that before. It's getting awful.
And I seem to remember how much we hated Iridium satellites. Nothing is as bad as it's worse than when we had Iridium. in the sky.
I actually liked iridium flares, and I think because there were 60 across the whole globe and it was visible for a matter of a few seconds and it was totally invisible the rest of the time. So
Yeah.
it was quite different.
Very
Like
good.
having the 42,000 is what Starlink are wanting to put up there. That's just one constellation. That's insane. It's like
Yes.
not tenable. It's really
yeah,
not.
crazy.
But it's more a problem as well for collisions. It's going to potentially be awful. Kessler event is inevitable if we put that many things up there.
Oh,
Well,
100%.
the ISS has already had the robotic arm hit by space
Yes.
debris. That was the last few days.
I mean, they're constantly having to nudge their orbit out to avoid debris as well. And
Yeah.
a lot of times they have to slightly move so that they don't get hit.
Well, as I say, they were talking about it, taking it out of low Earth orbit, putting it in high Earth orbit. The only problem is, of course, that the Dragon capsule, I don't believe, can actually get there just yet. The only thing that can do that would be Orion or Soyuz. The Russians are pulling out of the ISS.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes,
So, and
They're
the
off to work
Chinese.
China,
it is
aren't they?
worrying.
Well, I guess we'll see what happens. Gateway is fairly safe because it's in a lunar orbit, and you'll have to deliberately aim something at that to affect it. But we shall see.
Yeah, it is very worrying.
But,
It's very worrying that more people aren't concerned is actually more of a problem. I think people are waking up finally and realizing that, you know, something has to happen to make this better because it is going to impact things. But I mean, if you've got all of your pixels flooded and you are a survey looking for asteroids, you could miss something that is heading our way. It's going to interfere with important safety observations. And there's also, I read somewhere there's a possibility it's going to mess around with our weather forecasting as well, because the weather satellites are going to be affected by the 5G. So,
oh joy.
Wonderful.
I mean, most of our weather forecasts are nonsense anyway, but
Exactly. Wow.
But you know, that's important if you live somewhere that maybe is, you know, likely to have hurricanes or tsunamis or whatever. If that sort of forecasting is getting interrupted, then that's not good.
Well, as I say, time will tell. I know Boeing and Amazon want to get in on the act, but we shall see.
Yeah, there must be 6 companies now at least that I've seen that have got aspirations to get a constellation up there.
Yeah, I think there's one called OneTel, which is from the UK. They're interested in doing it as well.
Oh, joy.
However, we shall see what happens.
So observe the comets now while you still can.
Yeah. Otherwise, we'll have to wait until there's eye telescope number M42 on the moon. There's a thought. Everybody logging into an eye telescope on the moon.
That would be epic, wouldn't it?
That would, wouldn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. I have to give
No weather problems in there.
Well, it'd be a whole new. How do they define the observatory code from a lunar observatory?
Well, this is it. Don't think of something.
Oh, absolutely. Well, you know what? We've had a good show. Must be up at least to an hour. And I know what I forgot to do at the beginning of the show. I forgot to thank Luna Lee for playing us in, and now she's going to play us out. So on that bombshell, it's good night from me.
And good night from me.
And good night from me.
Good night.